Well, greetings and salutations, SIE test takers. Welcome to our concluding episode 11 of our SIE podcast series. We've been doing this in reverse order of how important things are in terms of waiting on the actual exam, hence episode 11. This covers section 4 of your SIE exam, which is the regulatory framework, 9% of your exam and only 7 questions. So when you're studying, pay attention to where the vast majority of the performance opportunities are located or not located in terms of FINRA's content outline. All right, well, let's get started with today's episode 11. Registration and continuing education. There's two components to continuing ed. There's a regulatory component. There's a firm component. We'll talk about both of those. But let's first talk about registration of persons. And that would mean registered and non-registered persons work at broker-dealers. And the key point about a non-registered person is they're not allowed to make public contact regarding investments. Their role should be solely clerical in nature. What we mean by that is if I'm the person at the broker-dealer answers the phone, hello, welcome, thank you for calling Gamma Global Investments. How can I forward your call? That person doesn't need to be registered. If on the other hand, maybe I'm confirming attendance for a seminar. Hi, I'm Dean Sales Assistant. I'm just confirming your attendance at this evening's seminar. That does not require registration. What requires registration is if somebody's making public contact regarding securities, right? So that's the main kind of point. There are certain things that will make you ineligible for membership or association. These are what we call reasons for statutory disqualification. The three big ones to be aware of on your SIE exam would be conviction of a felony within the last 10 years, a misdemeanor involving embezzlement of money and or securities, and number 3, have you ever been denied, suspended, or revoked registration in the past? Those are the three I'd be aware of. And then as a test taker, I'd also be aware of the format they like when there's 3 of a thing is the accept format. So all the following are reasons for statutory disqualification, except, right, would be something that you could be expecting as perhaps a tested question. Firms conduct background checks at some point. Somebody will be doing checks, primarily here of your U4, to make sure that everything you answered no is in fact a no and not a yes. It's not testable, but in a business, when you fill out a U4 and you can check every one of those questions on a U4, that's how you become registered, is, U4. If you can check every of those things no, that's called a clean U4. And as we just discussed, if you have a yes answer, not testable in the business, called a dirty U4. And some yes answers are dirtier than others. I mean, all of them will require some kind of an explanation on your point. And then again, it would be bad form to have made a misstatement on that U4. As I mentioned, any yes answer. There's some yes answers like bankruptcy that need to be disclosed, but are not necessarily reasons for statutory disqualification. But, again, the U4 will at some point be verified in some fashion. Join me for future exams, 24, and I'll go more into depth on that. All U4s, all registrations or registration attempts are accompanied by a fingerprint card. And if you fail to register associated persons, that's a big no-no. So if FINRA finds out, FINRA is the self-regulatory organization for the securities industry. And if they find out that you're allowing people to conduct business who are unregistered, business of a type that means they should have been registered, obviously you're going to be in some serious hot water with what's called FINRA's Department of Enforcement. Don't forget, not only does a registered rep have to be associated or registered with the FINRA and the SEC, a registered representative, an associated person of a broker-dealer, must also be registered in any state in which they have a retail client. Now, some of you, this is the first leg of your testing journey, and you'll be taking a second and a third leg. And that third leg is typically going to be a state exam, 63, 65, 66. And almost that entire exam is about what would trigger registration of a broker dealer, an investment advisor, an associated person, investment advisor rep, agent of the broker dealer in a particular state. These laws that vary from state to state or registration requirements are referred to as blue sky laws. A lot of apocryphal stories about why they're called blue sky laws. I always kind of think of it as jurisdiction. What I mean by that is there's always a sign that tells you you're leaving state A, entering state B to let you know that the regulatory framework has changed. So as a retail investor, I have two levels of protection. On the federal level, the SEC. The SEC has primary jurisdiction interpretation enforcement of the domestic securities laws of the United States of America. In the state, I have the state administrator. And the state administrator will require broker dealers with any retail client or any office in the state to be registered, as well as that broker dealer's agents. I'll leave it to you for future exams to know there's going to be a lot more depth to that on your actual exam. As we mentioned, there's two continuing ed requirements of broker dealers. There's a regulatory element and there's a firm element. On the regulatory element, the thing I would be aware of on that regulatory element as a test taker is that you are required to complete that by December 31st for each registration that you hold. So for every registration you hold, you're going to have to complete the regulatory element. The key thing I would know is December 31st as a test taker on that. There's also, as we mentioned, a firm element. It looks like I dropped the T there on my firm element. Oh, well. I never let the perfect be the enemy of the good when trying to get content out to you. So hopefully you'll be a little forgiving of foibles like that. But anyways, on the firm element, the firm has to conduct an annual needs analysis. It has to have a written training plan. It has to maintain records documenting the content and completion of the program. The key here is you can't just buy from a consultant some annual CE plan, firm element, that doesn't meet what your broker dealer is doing. When I was conducting business, I made a mistake one time. I hired a consultant for this thing, and then a lot of it didn't apply, and I put NA not applicable. What I should have done is opened up the PDF and changed it and made it unique to my firm rather than trying to use something that was germane. I mean, some of the questions were germane to my firm, and those are the ones I should have left, obviously, and got rid of the other ones. FINRA required me to write a paragraph on each NA about why it was not applicable. Anyways, you get the idea. It should be something that is germane to what the type of business that your firm is conducting and making sure your reps understand products that they would be recommending, right? So if we're going to allow reps to sell particularly structured products, alternative products like ETNs and reverse convertibles, some exotic products, we have even a higher standard of making sure those reps are adequately trained. Perhaps CMOs, collateralized mortgage obligations, those types of things. Employee conduct and reportable events. So, how do we report things? We have a U4 and a U5. Anything on a U4, I think of a U4 as hello and a U5 as goodbye. And U4s, if something has become a yes answer, you have 30 days to make amendment to that U4. So not good news if your firm, after you are taking or sponsored, maybe taking your 7, you're taking your 63, for example, and somebody starts talking about your U5. U5 is how you say goodbye, right? U5 disassociates you from the broker dealer. U4 associates with the broker dealer on the second leg of your testing journey. You need to have it be sponsored to take a 6 or a 7. If you haven't already done so, you'll be filling out a U4, assuming you're going on to that second leg. And again, the test question here would be any amendments to either the U4 or the U5 need to be done in a timely fashion. That timely fashion is 30 days. And then we said you have a responsibility to make sure those forms are current. In other words, misleading information would mean you are intentionally know that it should be a yes and you said no, or omitting information, that would also be not bueno. Customer complaints. All customer complaints of a broker dealer must be handled by a supervisor. And if you have a written customer complaint, must be handled by a supervisor, and then you should give it to your supervisor immediately. Now, customer complaints of a broker dealer, written customer complaints, are a 4-year record under FINRA. It's a 6-year record under the MSRB. The MSRB is the self-regulatory organization for the municipal market, the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. And, why don't they have the same? They just, MSRB is a stickler, I guess. Anyways, and then broker dealers have to file quarterly those complaints with FINRA. Usually it's a summary of the complaints, and then, further documentation would be available about how we handled that complaint. Unless there's a sense of urgency. So we wouldn't file quarterly if the customer's written complaint is alleging, theft or embezzlement or something like that, where there would be, time is of the essence, so to speak. Reportable events, very testable to know that as an associated person of a broker dealer, you have to report outside business activities. Now, the key word here on the test is business activities. This isn't volunteering at the Red Cross or volunteering to man the telephone during Pledge Week. That's not what we're discussing. We're discussing you as an associated person of a broker dealer having an outside business activity for pay. In your firm, when you make that written notice, them will determine whether there's an adverse interest, and then they could actually restrict that activity. Adverse interest means, a conflict of interest. It's a fancy word. It's a little more serious than a conflict of interest. Private securities transactions, as a baby broker, that's not a derogatory term. Baby broker is a term of endearment. As a baby broker, we say, listen, we have an approved product list. Here are the various products that we have that you're allowed to get customers involved in. It'd be various mutual funds, partnerships. And if it's not on the approved product list, you're not supposed to sell it. Now, if you do get people involved in a investment opportunity not sponsored by your employing broker dealer, right? So you go to make written notice to this, that you're going to be involved in, forming a health club. You're going to be the general partner. You're going to find limited partners. And the firm would want to know about that. And when you make written notice to them, again, they can either restrict that, or as they approved it unlikely, they would send a letter to every one of these customers saying, this is not a sponsored investment. Don't come whining to us if you lose your money. So very testable to know what a violation of this would be called. So on the test, I'd be prepared for something where they say an associated person sells an investment not sponsored by their employing broker dealer. This is a prohibited practice and is known as selling away, right? So an associated person of a broker dealer sells an investment not sponsored by their employing broker dealer without permission. This is a prohibited practice known as selling away. Don't get this confused with another violation where a market maker fails to honor firm quote. That is a prohibited known as backing away. So make sure you know the distinction between selling away and backing away. Political campaign contributions. The MSRB rule G37 is the one to be aware of here. And associated persons of broker dealers, the MSRB, the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, has what they call pay to play prohibitions. In other words, what they don't want a broker dealer involved in the municipal business to do is to say, hey, Mayor, what would it take for you to stay on board, man? I don't want to start over with a new guy, right? So what I would know is the maximum under MSAB rules G37, the maximum campaign contribution that can be made by an associated person is $250. Now, to make that $250 campaign contribution, I have to be eligible to vote for that politician. So again, I would know rule G37. You don't need to worry about G20 or G37. It's the MSRB has A rules, administrative rules. They have D rules, definitional rules, and they have G rules, general rules. And this is one of their general rules, which is $250. FINRA has another dollar amount rule that we should be aware of. And this rule is the maximum gift or gratuity that an employee of one firm can give to the employee of another firm. The MSRB has the exact same rule known as G20. The test question here is to know that this number is $100. And so the maximum gift or gratuity that an employee of one member firm can give the employee of another member firm is $100. Now, this doesn't count normal deductible business activities, right? So we talked about the $250 for campaign contributions. Now we're talking about gift and gratuities of one firm to another. Now, this $100 does not apply to normal deductible business activities. For example, business entertainment, or seminars. Like maybe I'm a wholesaler, I'm an associated person of the fund distributor, which is a FINRA member firm. You're a baby broker. You're allowed to sell my mutual fund. And I come to you and say, hey, why don't you invite your prospects and clients to a dinner this evening? I'll come talk about professional management, diversification, ease of ownership, and I'll pay for the pizzas and the sodas. That is a normal deductible business activity. It could go way over 100, not a problem. It doesn't apply to reminder advertising. What we don't want to have happen is me as a wholesaler saying to you, hey, listen, here's a wad of $100 bills. You just tell me when. $2,100 bills, $2,000 later. You say, well, Dina, do you want me to sell your fund to the, even if it's not in the best interest of my broker dealer and his clients? I say, if need be, right? At some point, a gift or gratuity could compromise your ability to make individual decisions that are in the best interest of your broker dealer and most importantly, his clients. So again, $100, make sure you understand it doesn't apply to normal deductible business activities, doesn't apply to reminder advertising. Listen, the one thing I'd warn you about on the SIE, there's not a lot of judgment questions. So sometimes people give me feedback like, give me some scenario. I go, that's not going to be found on your SIE. The SIE is mainly definitional recognition, very, very limited, maybe one or two judgment questions. Now, if you come and take a 7, you join me for a 24, well, then it gets into like sporting events and whether it's not, you have to be there or not. I wouldn't worry a whole lot on that in terms of your exam. We talked about reportable events, financial related misdemeanors. Liens and bankruptcies aren't reasons for statutory disqualification, but they certainly need to be disclosed, right? And then again, some explanation. I've had people, I got bad for this guy. He had a bankruptcy, and then only one state administrator came back and wanted further information on the bankruptcy. And, I wish he would have talked to me beforehand, but the response he made was not adequate, and they wouldn't register him in that particular state, which is kind of a sad thing. Jurisdictional retention for 2 years. So as we said, U5 is how you get out of the business. So U5 disassociates you from the broker dealer. Once you're disassociated from the broker dealer, the FINRA still has jurisdictional retention for 2 years. What that means is that for 2 years from that time, if they ask you for documentations or maybe they're investigating something, you have a responsibility to respond. After they've lost jurisdictional retention, then I say to FINRA, who are you again? I don't think you have any regulatory authority any longer over me. The 2 days have come and gone. Now, that's a different question than maintaining or having to retest. The FINRA has a program now where you can actually keep your registrations without having to retest. I shouldn't say keep them, but, for 5 years. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about this idea of how long from a U5 disassociation does FINRA still have jurisdictional retention? Okay, well, I don't know where the next leg of your testing journey may take you, but I plan on doing a podcast series on each of your exams. So let me know in the comments whether you found this helpful, because we will extend this series to the Series 6 and the Series 7. Probably Series 7 would be the first one I would do, because that would be typically somebody's second leg of their testing journey. So remember, we now have 3 complete playlists for your SIE. Playlist number 1, which is lectures. Playlist number 2 on the SIE is practice tests and practice questions. And now we have a third playlist, a podcast series on the exam itself. Remember, inch by inch, your SIE exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your SIE exam is hard. And if you need any further help, just let me know in the comments. Bye-bye.